So this is the quote from Gabor Mate about trading authenticity for attachment. But before we get into that, I wanted to share another quote from Brene Brown. And she talks about in many of her different books and works about how we share our truth with the people who've earned the right to hear our story. And when we talk about trading authenticity for attachment, one of the things that Gabor Mate talked about was children have to do that, basically. We have to try to maintain connection and attachment with parents any way that we can. And it's not very common that parents would kind of let the child be an equal participant in the decisions in the family and would give the child a lot of room to have emotions that they're having and to validate them and see them. That's a pretty unusual experience. So the first thing I think is to not shame ourselves for this trade that we make, because the trade is partly based on our primitive survival system, and it's a survival strategy. If we know that we're going to get hit if we complain about being hungry, or if we know that someone's going to give us a silent treatment, or just even just be irritated with us if we do certain things or don't do certain things, we bow to that peer pressure. And sometimes we rebel against it. And overall, the trajectory seems to be that we try to figure out a way to make it work. And a lot of that means that we don't really come forward with our own truth in a consistent way because it doesn't work for other people. And the other people being the ones with the power in particular. So this is a survival strategy that really everybody does. And sometimes we go into freeze or flight. We just kind of emotionally leave the room. Sometimes we might fight back against that. But it's hard, even just for very simple things. It's hard to really show up as who we are because we're not really welcome. Or at least that's our feeling, our sense is that the adults in our life don't really welcome us as we are. And sometimes it's, certainly abuse or something like that. Oftentimes it's an emotional deadness or freeze where, for me, I knew that nobody wanted to hear how I was feeling. And I was really on my own with my feelings. And if I got into some kind of trouble, I better not ask for help from my parents because they would just say, no, you're embarrassing us, stop it, or something like that. So we have a range of experiences with this, and we all comply with this. We all find ways to maintain connection, and that it's really important to be able to really be aware of that and to see if we're shaming ourselves and to really work with that and stop. So be strategic about what you share and who you share it with. If your experience with somebody is that they're not trustworthy, or they're going to tell things that you've said, or you're going to be judged either really overtly or covertly, then that's not a safe person to share with. It's okay to be strategic. We're not being inauthentic if we're being strategic about who we share what with. So I wanted to say that first. So the inquiry today is to look at this quote of Gabor Mate. It says, children, we traded authenticity for attachment in order to survive. And recognizing that we all have done that and do that, where are you still trading authenticity for attachment? So this is different in different kinds of relationships. Certainly for teenagers, we often go along with the crowd. It's called peer pressure. There's a lot of different ways that this happens. As adults, it's a little bit different. So I didn't want to go through a bunch of slides today. I wanted to really save our time for the actual inquiry. So the stuff on the left is this structure that works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for you, that's fine. Just leave it be. But on the left is all of our conditioning. So it might be, a flash of your dad's face when he was scolding you, or it might be, the girls at school that you were rejected by, or whatever it is. So all of that experience hangs over here on the left side. And the way I feel it is kind of just outside my body on the left side is kind of a, a swamp of conditioning and beliefs and hurt, and all of that stuff kind of lives over there. And there's a bunch of beliefs that live over there. And so these beliefs that we're talking about right now are conditioned by our personal experience. So this is a little bit different than society's conditioning, where we're looking at, what we've seen in marketing and advertising and what body size is okay. These beliefs are more conditioned by our own experience. So you might have some of these, or you might have a whole bunch of different ones. So I'm not okay on my own. I need to feel loved by someone to survive. That is a childhood experience that we all have. It's a primitive brain, pretty strong drive. And it's safer to go along to be an insider, to feel included. That's certainly an experience we have in our childhood and teenage years. It really gets to be quite strong there, but it's all the time. Whether you have some kind of casual experience, like going into a location where you know people and you get a hug. They might not be your best friend, you might not see them very often, but it feels good to be included. And it feels safer than to stand out. We've all had that experience too, or whether it's happened to us directly, the tallest poppy syndrome, where if somebody kind of shines, sometimes the reaction of other people is to try and cut them down to size. And then the experience we have of this very narrow window of tolerance, that we can't tolerate it when someone disagrees or turns away from us. And that may or may not be true now, but if that's the operating belief that's going on in the background, then it really limits. It really limits ourselves. So settle back and let's take a moment for those beliefs to come up. So it might be some of these, or might be something like that, worded a little bit differently. Take a moment. What are your beliefs around, particularly around authenticity and really sharing who you are? What experience has led to those beliefs, and what are the beliefs? And if it works for you, let them kind of hang over on the left side, that space on the left side of your body. Continue to notice your breath. You might have a lot of examples coming up, and if you need to, you could tap on your forehead or open your eyes, put them in a frame on the other side of the room, do tracing or focus shifting. So we're always trying to remain aware and present in this moment, aware of your body and your breath as you're seeing what comes up. What are those beliefs? And as you're working with those beliefs, you might also notice how they're affecting your life right now. So if I have a belief that I'm unlovable, then how does that affect you right now? Or sometimes there's a kind of a defiant belief like relationships aren't worth the trouble. So notice the belief and then notice how that plays out in your life right now. Maintain awareness of your body and your breath. So, because these beliefs are conditioned by personal experience, we have evidence for them. So, you can come into this by looking at what are your beliefs, but you could also just let it arise. What are some of your experiences in relationship? And then from there, look to see what belief did I form based on that experience. And this would be something to keep working with. We're going to move on to the next piece right now, but it'd be interesting to keep coming back to that and having a look. What are my beliefs? When did I form them? What were the experiences? So, the inquiry, the first question is something that never really occurred to me to ask. What do I want in life? Who am I? What are my likes and dislikes? What do I want in terms of friends, family, and a partner? And I suspect I'm not the only one who wasn't encouraged to be proactive around that. So that could be partly just to sit with, especially those of us who are a little bit older, but at any age, did I really kind of get in touch with that when I was younger? Could I get in touch with it now? Some people, friends are so important to them, and I see them, they put so much effort into that. Other people, it's important, but there's too much fear or something else in the way. So you could spend some time thinking about what do you want in life, and let's give this a couple minutes. But you could also look at, did I ever even ask myself that? It's an interesting question too. What do I want in life, and particularly in relationships? And then if you'd like to move into the reverse inquiry, so in the Kilby inquiries, the reverse inquiry is when we say something that we don't believe is really true. And then we look to see what's the resistance to that. What's the no? Sometimes it might be words, sometimes it might be contraction in the body somewhere. So the words are, and you could certainly change the words if something else resonates more strongly with you. I love and approve of myself so securely that I am comfortable with being authentic with everyone. What's your gut response to that? I love and approve of myself so securely that I am comfortable being authentic with everyone. Maintain awareness of your body and breath. Notice your energy, your sensations. What's the response to that? So, this isn't really an affirmation. This is a statement that we're looking to see what is the unconscious resistance to that statement. I'm comfortable being authentic with everyone. If that's not true, what's the evidence that that's not true? What does your mind bring forward around that? Or what response do you have in your body? And we'll give this several minutes, so modify the words or ask it again if you're starting to feel, okay, I see this now. And then say it again. See what your response is. We're looking for what is it in us that resists that, that says, no, that's not true. And if you need to, bring in one of those beliefs from the left side and reverse the inquiry on that. I'm completely comfortable when someone disagrees with me. I don't care. Or I can completely tolerate it or easily tolerate it when someone turns away from me. And stay aware of your body, your breath, your response, and the inquiry. If you're having trouble staying in the present, open your eyes, look around a bit. And we could imagine that structure of all of those conditioned beliefs on the left. On the right is freedom. What would that be for you, that freedom? What would be absent or missing, and what would be there? What would it be like to move through your life with that freedom? Connecting with people with no shame, no insecurities, knowing that you're safe and assessing that correctly, staying away from people who aren't. What would that be like? Deeply connecting with people, being yourself. And then make a note of what you're experiencing and what you might like to come back to. And then let's take a moment to just kind of sink into this phrase: I can afford to be myself. For me, I know from past experience that connecting without authenticity doesn't work. I feel sad and empty, and the relationship doesn't have any juice. And there's a cost to being ourselves. Sometimes it's pain and grief when we lose a relationship where we were really connected. And sometimes it's the grief and pain of not connecting, and we look back and see what we might have missed. I can afford to be myself. Notice your breath, notice your body, head to toes. And let's take a couple of minutes to make a note or write in your journal or just sit quietly and reflect. And then we'll come back to the group. I'll let you know a couple minutes from now.